Just want to start this by saying a quick thank you to all members of the Kinetic Rugby League channel. If you want to become a member and support the work that I do, you can do by clicking the join button below this video and joining for as little as £1 per month. Thank you again to all members, but let's get on with the video. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I've left a recap of last round's predictions up on screen. That's probably one of the best weeks of predictions I've had in the NRL in the past few years. That is solid. It's not quite 8 out of 8, 7 out of 8 with the wins, but 6 out of 8 with the margins. The margins are very, very difficult to get, so I'm very happy with that one. That's a solid round. So we now get into the NRL Round 27 predictions. As always, if you guys have your own predictions, let me know in the comment section down below. But let's get on with the first game for this week. Kicking things off this week, we have the Broncos taking on the Storm. Starting with form, both have won 4 in their last 5 games, and they played just a few weeks back. The Storm won 22 points to 2, but as we all know, the Broncos lost out on Reynolds and Mam very early on. The Broncos have just dropped Shibasaki to the reserve, so Mariner will start at centre, while the Storm will be without Blore and Utukamanu, but they do have Katoa, Howarth, King, Meaney, Kamikamitha, Coates and Jerome Hughes all available this week. Last round, the Storm started off well. They looked in control against the Roosters, but in the second half, they were dominated. They allowed the Roosters to march up the field very easily. They could barely work the ball up the field themselves. They looked void of ideas in possession, and their defence collapsed very easily as well. The Broncos won't be happy conceding 30 at the weekend, but their attack has been good enough for them in recent months, scoring 38 at the weekend and scoring 46, 38 and 60 in a few of their more recent games as well. This week, with Hughes back in the side, I think Storm could very easily revert back to default and feel a lot more comfortable in possession, which is also helped by the fact that their backline is much closer to their preferred group of players as well. But the Broncos have won 3 games in a row as they're trying to adapt to a new halves partnership. An argument could be made that those 3 teams that they've played against aren't good defensive sides, which I think is a fair argument, but there's still enough evidence for me to feel confident about the Broncos at least competing in this one in terms of their offense. The Broncos have only won 1 of their past 18 games against the Storm though, and the Storm have won 15 of their last 16 Thursday night games. I do think the Broncos are clearly capable of scoring points, and I think they'll be able to restrict Melbourne's metres through the middle fairly well, but I think the Storm will be able to use their full strength spine to take more risks inside their own half and work the ball up the field by stretching a Broncos defence that have conceded some heavy points recently. So for prediction, I'm going to go with the Storm to win by 1-12, and for a try scorer, I'm going to go with Xavier Coates. Next up, we have the Seagulls taking on the Warriors. Both have won 2 in their last 5 games, but the Seagulls are on a 2-game win streak right now. These sides met back in round 2, and the Warriors won 36-16. Overall this season, Manly have been the better attacking side, the Warriors have been the better defensive side. The Seagulls are without Cooler as well as Garrick, who's been out for a couple of weeks, so Failalo and Talau will both be in the centres for Manly. The Warriors will have Taupiki available this week, but Wade Egan is unavailable, so Healy will start at 9 for New Zealand Warriors. Based on recent results, it looks like the Seagulls are starting to settle with Tom Trbojevic at fullback and Hopewate on the wing. Those backs are creating plenty of opportunities. 4 games running, they seemed incapable of finding any meaningful points, but in the last 2 weeks, they've scored 40 and 58 points. They've still been conceding a lot, which is an issue, and the average in the last 5 is 25.6 points per game conceded. Now, for the Warriors, they've not been convincing in attack for a little while. 2 weeks ago, they managed to put up 32 points, but that was against the worst defence in the league. In other recent games, they've only been able to find 22, 14, 14 again, and 18. But their defence is also looking a little inconsistent right now as well, so a lot of their games in the last few months have been very close. I think both might fall into the habit of playing basic rugby league, just going through the middle a lot and at the end of sets, letting their halfbacks find the corners, not taking too many risks early on. I feel like that's going to be the case at the start, unless mistakes gift easy territory to either side, which opens the game up. But I've got a feeling it's going to be very back and forth to start, and for me, both packs are about even. Now, in terms of stats for this matchup, the Warriors have won only 1 of their last 6 games at Four Pines Park. Now, I think the Warriors are capable of finding points, and against this Seagulls defence, it could be easy to find a few here and there, but the Seagulls have really started to find their way in attack, and the Warriors defence doesn't seem all that stable. So for a prediction, I'm going to go with the Seagulls to win by 1-12 points, and for a try scorer, I'm going to go with Jason Saab. Next up, we have the Roosters taking on the Rabbitohs. The Roosters have won 4 in their last 5 games. The Rabbitohs have won 3 in their last 5 games, but they are on a 3-game win streak. These sides played back in round 5, and the Rabbitohs won 20 points to 14. For this fixture, the Roosters aren't missing anyone from last round. They do also have Makatoa, Foketi and Rodwell available, but they have dropped Sandon Smith to the reserves to make way for Sam Walker, who comes back in this week. The Rabbitohs are without Thomas Fletcher, who was a solid impact player last time out against the Dragons, but they'll have Bentley Harpay, Dodd, Aitken available as well. Jack Whiten will rejoin the starting lineup in the centres, and Cameron Murray will return to the side and start from the bench. Even though the Rabbitohs had absolutely zero problems dealing with the Dragons forward pack last time out, I do still kind of have the same issue with the Rabbitohs this week, which is that they look small compared to their opponent's pack. They have Kepi starting with Koloamatangi in the front row, but the options off the bench include Smith, Host, Walker and Murray. They aren't big rotational players. The Roosters have Leniu and Collins starting, but they've got White at lock, who's having a hell of a season right now and is a real threat through the middle, but they've got Butcher, Steep and Wong off the bench, who all contributed massively to the Roosters' dominance through the middle in the second half against the Storm in the last round. The Rabbitohs have won 1 of their past 5 games against the Roosters, and the Roosters have scored 146 points in their last 4 games. I think after the Roosters' awful display against the Eels 2 weeks ago, Sam Walker will hopefully get through a full 80 minutes this week. I think the Roosters can do a lot of damage through the middle, and they've got great offload potential as well in that side to keep plays alive and open up the Rabbitohs' defence. Now with Ward and Humphreys in the Rabbitohs side in the halves, they're low on experience but certainly not on energy and execution. They can control the kicking game fairly well together, and I think given the occasion, the Rabbitohs can rise to it and make it a tricky one for the Roosters because they'd love to upset the Roosters' season. I do think the Rabbitohs will have their moments in defence and they'll push the Roosters, but overall, for me, the Roosters have enough quality in their side to find an important win against their rivals this week. So for prediction, I'm going to go with the Roosters to win by 1 to 12 points, and for a try scorer, I'm going to go with Mark Nawaqanitawase. Next up, we have the Dragons versus the Panthers. Both have won just 2 in their last 5 games, and both are on a 3-game losing streak. Now, the Dragons were dominated, and have been dominated for 2 weeks running, while the Panthers have at least kept it close against the Storm and Raiders before losing to a nearly full-strength Bulldogs side, whilst the Panthers rested their entire squad. So this Panthers side that's playing this week has basically just been on a bye round. For me, this game feels quite simple. I think the Dragons will be under a lot of pressure on their own goal line. They'll get through a lot of good defensive sets, and they might even be able to swing momentum here and there and find points off the back of that pressure, because they can dig deep as a team sometimes and keep teams out. I think the Panthers will likely be able to pin the Dragons back for the most part, and then it's just a numbers game inside the red zone with so many play the balls. The Panthers might be a touch off the pace early on because of the week off, but I think since they've been training all week, they might just grow into the game later on. That's a maybe. Now, the Dragons have won 3 of their past 4 games at Wynn Stadium, but the Panthers have won 7 of their last 8 games against the Dragons. The Dragons have at least been able to beat 4 of the current top 8 sides, and maybe they'll be able to hit another level again this week against a strong Panthers side. But overall, I trust the Panthers to maintain control for the most of the game, have plenty of territory, and be able to pile on some decent points against a side that has leaked 40 points per game in their last 2. So for a prediction, I'm going to go with the Panthers to win by 13+, and for a try scorer, I'm going to go with Casey McLean. Next up, we have the Titans versus the Tigers. The Titans have won 0 in their last 5, while the Tigers have at least won 2 in their last 5. These sides met back in round 20, and the Tigers took the win 21-20. The Titans have been the slightly better attacking side this season, but the Tigers have been the significantly better defensive side, with the Titans being the worst defensive side in the comp. The Tigers have also won 4 more games this season as well. Now, the Titans will be without Jojo Fafita, but they've got guys like Carter Gordon and Philip Sammy coming in this week. Brimson has been moved to the centres, so Keanu Kinney will start at fullback this week. He'll be a major help with returns, off-the-cuff plays, and will be dangerous inside the red zone if they get possession in there. The Tigers are without Skelton, so Makasini will replace him on the wing this week, and without Dewey at 7 for another week as well for the Tigers, it's going to be harder for them to control this game and open this side up as well. In the forwards, I think the Titans are built more for impact and strong carries, whereas there's more mobility in the Tigers pack. If Campbell and Foran are kicking well for the Titans, I think they'll be able to keep the Tigers pinned back for long periods. However, in the back line, I think the Tigers have more of the threatening options that can win their 1v1s and create breaks, especially if May is against Gordon. If they're matched up on the same edge, I think May could get a lot of good field position over on that left edge of the field. The Titans have won 5 of their last 7 games against the Tigers, And the Tigers haven't beaten the Titans at Cbus Super Stadium since 2017. But the Titans have conceded 122 points in their last 3 games, which is 40.6 points per game. They're finding fairly consistent points of their own, while the Tigers still have a little bit of work to do in both attack and defence, but that Titans defence is absolutely atrocious. So for a prediction, I'm going to go with the Tigers to win by 1 to 12 points, and for a try scorer, I'm going to go with Taylor May. Next up, we have the Bulldogs taking on the Sharks. The Bulldogs have won just 2 in their last 5 games, and the Sharks have won 4 in their last 5 games. These sides played all the way back in round 4, and the Bulldogs won 20 points to 6. I think both sides are a little bit different compared to what they were back then at this point of the season. The Bulldogs are without Jacob Kiraz this week, so Inari Tuala will take his spot on the wing. Morin and Kickout are both available to play this week as well. The Sharks have no major losses to worry about, but they do have Kafusi available, as well as Ramian, who's straight back in the centres. This feels like a fairly even battle to me in a lot of areas. In the backs, both have guys that can win their 1v1s, either in defence or create line breaks. So we could see a lot of individual efforts towards the edges, but they'll kind of have each other's number there. They've both got half-backs that can control the kicking game fairly well and connect well when spreading the ball across the field. But I think it leans more towards Trindle and Hines for both of those areas. They're more familiar with each other, their kicking is a little bit more precise and creative. Plus, for some reason, Burton hasn't really been using his bomb that much in the last few weeks, just focusing on kicking long. Why not use something in your toolkit that's so valuable more often? I don't know. I think Burton really needs to start using that bomb a lot more. In the forwards, there's give and take here. Up front, it's the Sharks all day. King and Hughes are hard working, but they aren't really having much of an impact recently up front. Against Fanua Blake alone, he'll do more damage in my opinion. But in the back row, I like Wilton, but without Nikora, the advantage leans towards Kickout and Preston and Tupanua when he comes on as well, either in the front row or towards the edges. I do think the Sharks have a little more size on the bench as well, with Talakai, Hazelton and Hamlin-Uele. Now, the Bulldogs have won 8 from 10 games at a core stadium this season, but the Bulldogs have only won 2 of their past 8 games against the Sharks. The Bulldogs have only won half of their games against top 8 sides this year, and that defensive wall that teams used to be concerned about isn't really the same anymore, and it's against a Sharks side that is picking up some real steam in attack, scoring 40 and 54 in their last 2 games. Plus, I think Trindle's kicking and Kennedy in close games will come up clutch towards the end when they're needed most. So for prediction, I'm going to go with the Sharks to win by 1 to 12 points. And for a try scorer, I'm going to go with Ronaldo Mulatalo. Next up, we have the Dolphins versus the Raiders. The Dolphins have won just 2 in their last 5 games, while the Raiders have won 4 in their last 5 games, winning 3 in a row. This week, the Raiders will be resting a ton of players now that the minor premiership is wrapped up for them, so congratulations to the Canberra Raiders. They are resting Strange, Young, Fogarty, Stewart, Tarpany, Papali'i, Weeks, Sasangi, Starling and Hosking. Meanwhile, the only regulars remaining include Tamale, Timoko, Chris, Horsburgh, Patty, Mariota, Smithies and Nicholson actually comes back in, which is great to see. The Raiders do have some options in the forwards and the backs that can do a bit of damage, but I don't know if they've necessarily got enough to challenge in this one. The Dolphins will bring the same lineup to this fixture from the last round, which is the right move. Herbie Farnworth is available, but he's in the reserves for now. I think he should at least be promoted to the bench, so he could get some game time for if the Dolphins can make the top 8. In order for that to happen, they must win this game, and they need the Roosters to lose to the Rabbitohs. But they'll also have to claw back a decent amount of points difference as well. So I expect to see a very aggressive Dolphins side here. Now, this Raiders lineup might have its moments, but I think there are just too many changes, and it's going to be difficult to put up a solid enough defensive line with a side that's kind of been thrown together against a great attacking side in the Dolphins. So for prediction in this one, I'm going to go with the Dolphins to win by 13+, and for a try scorer, I'm going to go with Tavita Naufahu. Finally for this round, we have the Eels taking on the Knights. Now, the Eels have won 3 in their last 5 games, winning 2 in a row. The Knights have won 0 in their last 5 games, losing 8 games in a row. Both sides are about as close to full strength as they've been all season, with the exception of Kalen Ponga for the Knights, of course, and a few other pieces here and there for both. But the Eels have decided to put Brown back in the halves with Moses when things seemed to be kind of fine with Papali'i in there and Brown in the centres. But the Knights will begrudgingly want Brown to have a world-class game against them, as their current number 6, Jake Arthur, is of course off to Hull FC in Super League next season, and Brown will be costing the Knights a lot of money for the next decade. But I think there's some good battles in the backs here. You've got Best on one side who can break lines, Lomax on the other side who can win aerial battles, but he's up against Marju, who can also get up there as well with him. Then we have the pace battle between Adokar and Young. There are some really interesting matchups here. Now in the forwards, I think the Knights have more size again. They've got a lot of size compared to a lot of other forward packs, but they're not bullying teams with it. They're not doing enough damage with it. And I think the Eels have shown enough evidence recently that they can get into the grind and withstand a decent amount of pressure from opposition middles. Also, in possession for the Eels, I think Walker at 13, I think he's settled in quite nicely and will give them a lot of control through the middle. Now, the Eels have won 7 of their last 8 games against the Knights, and the Knights haven't won at CommBank Stadium since 2020. Most importantly, the Eels are capable of winning and restricting points. The Knights have lost 8 in a row, as I mentioned at the start. They haven't scored more than 18 points in those 8 games, and they've conceded 44, 48, 38, 46, and 40 in their last 5. So for prediction in this one, I'm going to go with the Eels to win by 13+, and for a try scorer, I'm going to go with Josh Adokar. So to recap my NRL Round 27 predictions, I'm going to go with the Storm, Seagulls, Roosters to win by 1-12, Panthers 13+, Tigers and Sharks 1-12, and the Dolphins and Eels to win by 13+. For win confidence, I'm at about 80%. I'm fairly confident with the Storm winning, unsure about the Seagulls, I'm fairly confident with the Roosters, but that one's a little bit tricky, very confident with the Panthers, fairly confident with both the Tigers and Sharks winning, but both are still tricky to me as well, and then I'm very confident with the Dolphins and Eels winning their games. For margin confidence, I'm at about 85%. I feel very confident about all 1-12s being in that margin, regardless of the winner. Of the 13+ games, I'm most confident about the Panthers. The Dolphins and Eels should be 13+, but I think just because the Raiders have some strong pieces in there still, they could frustrate the Dolphins for a little while and keep the game relatively close. And the other one is also the Parramatta Eels, and who knows what they're going to do on a week-to-week basis, to be honest. It's Parramatta. So they have my recap for this round. So that's going to be it for this video. As always, if you guys have your own predictions, do let me know in the comment section down below. And if you enjoyed, feel free to leave a like. It does help to get the video out there to more people. Subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with more Kinetic Rugby League content. And if you'd like to become a member, you can do by clicking the join button below this video and joining for as little as £1 per month. But that's going to be it. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.